Hi guys, and welcome back to yet another Adobe After Effects tutorial. Today I will be teaching you everything graphs and some of the basics of text effects. So let's get started with first learning about what keyframes are. What is a keyframe? A keyframe is an indicator in animation and filmmaking that defines the start and end point of any transition. They are referred to as frames as their position is measured in frames on a given timeline. Let's get started with our graphs. For the purpose of this tutorial, as an example, I will be changing the scale of this rectangle and explain what the different graphs can do to this transition. So let's use a simple zoom in transition as an example. So first we're going to select this layer and press S to change the scale. So for making a keyframe, we have to select this icon. So first I want it to be small, so I'm going to make it as small as I like, and then press this to create a keyframe. And the keyframes are indicated as tiny diamonds on the timeline, and then I move forward to where I want it to the transition to end, and then make it as big as I want it at the end. So let's just make it this much, and then since it's the same is on the same transition, that's why the keyframe is automatically made once I change the scale later in the timeline. So now to create the transition itself, you have to select all the keyframes and right click, and then this drop down menu comes. Then you go to keyframe assistant and you do easy ease. Then it makes it into these stopwatch kind of icons. With them selected, you press this little graph editor icon and then you go in there. Now there are two different type of graphs, a value graph and a speed graph. So the value graph tends to look like this. So for this one is a much more visual graph than the other one. It's easy to use. So what we do is, suppose I want it to be faster, like come in fast and then slow down as it comes. So I move this lever, and the steepness of the curve determines how fast or slow it will come, and this will adjust at this decides how long the transition would last. Suppose if it's here, the flattening takes longer, so the transition itself will be longer. But here the flattening is faster, so the transition will be shorter. Let's see how this looks. Pretty smooth, right? Okay, now let's redo this. Let's redo this graph and let's see what it would be like if it was in a speed graph. Okay, so go to the speed graph, you have to press the second icon and then press speed graph. This graph is a more parabolic graph, so for using this, the intensity of the speed of the transition depends on where the peak is. Suppose the peak is in the middle, then it will go slow, fast and slow down again. So if I want it to be fast in the beginning, I push the peak this way, depending on the intensity. Since the peak is here, it will be faster here and then gradually slow down. Suppose it stays in the middle, then it would be slow and then become fast and then slow down again. As another example, let's take this shape, and now I'm going to do a rotation transition and show you how the graphs work more. So for rotation we press R and then this pops up. So I'm going to press this and then I'm going to go here and I will press 1 here, which means it's going to do a 360 degrees turn. Okay, so now I'm going to select these. I'm going to right click, do easy ease, go to the graph editor. Let's start with the speed graph first. So for the speed graph, if I want it to go slowly, then become fast and slow again, I'm going to push towards the middle. And this is the peak. This is a very steep peak and very flat sides, giving it a more intense transition. So let's see how this looks. I hope that gave you a much clearer idea about how the speed graph works. Okay, let's see what it would be like on a value graph. Okay, suppose you want the middle to be faster. That means the steeper the curve in the middle. So we push this here to the side, and then we push this side. This way it's flatter on the ends and much steeper in the middle. It will give you a much similar effect to the one seen before. And there you have it, a very easy transition. Okay, now let's talk about the basic text effects. There are multiple text effects that you can find within After Effects in the Effects and Presets panel right over here, and there are many of them, such as the typewriter, which you select the layer and you press the typewriter, and then if you go down here and you press U, which shows the keyframes, you can see where it starts and where it ends. And you can adjust this depending on how fast or slow you want the letters to appear. Then there would be another called decoder, and another, just for an example, called flicker exposure, which just gives you this little flicker effect. There are plenty more for you to explore within this panel. Then, such as every other layer, you can select it, press S, R, T for the opacity, and use it as any other layer and change the layer as you wish. Or you can go press this and you can animate the text as you wish. So you press this text and this is animate option, and then you can choose whichever one you want over here. Let me teach you a simple blur text. So what you do is you press this blur, then you press opacity in the add option over here, then these two show up in this animator one. Then you make the blur 20 for example, and you make the opacity 0, and now you press this range selector arrow, you do advanced, and then you can see here if you want it based on the characters, like each letter popping up, or if you want the words popping up individually, or however you like. And then once you have your preference, you press offset, and then you can press U just to see the keyframes. You go wherever you want this to end, and there you have your very own text animation. I hope you are not as intimidated by graphs anymore, and that you are able to create many animations and transitions of your own now, and just have fun with the texts, and I hope to see them soon. Thank you.